Okay, next we're going to look at number 21. So we're still dealing with writing systems of equations, and just by even looking, I know that I have like total number of like blankets and boots and coats, so it looks like I'm actually going to have to solve my system of equations at the very end to get my answer. So we're still going to need to come up with some equations, and I'm just familiar with this by just looking at the format of this question. But let's just like read the word problem and break it down and see if we can properly get some information. To start, I want to challenge you to go ahead and pause this video and annotate it on your own, and then check to see if you annotated similarly to me. So go ahead and pause if you want to try to annotate it and process it on your own, because I'm going to move through this part pretty quickly. So a homeless shelter used a generous donation to purchase items worth a total of $2,200. So that's like a total amount. Blankets cost $5 each. Okay, so blankets, I'll write that on the side, are $5. A pair of boots cost $20 each. Okay, so boots are $20. And then coats cost $20 each, or $25, I'm sorry. Coats are $25. There are 7 blankets for every coat. Okay, so that's some key information. And twice as many pair of boots as coats. Okay, so that's like 2 information that's telling me how I can compare like blankets and coats and boots. How many of each item were purchased? Okay, here's some key information that I want to break down. First, I have 3 variables, which means I'm going to need 3 equations to solve this, at least 3. So I know I'm going to need 3 equations. So I need to try to form some equations based on the information I have. So I notice at the top that I have this total amount of money. So that's telling me if I were to buy however many blankets and boots and coats, I'm going to spend a total number of $2,200. For simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and give these each a variable. I'm just going to call these A, B, and C. So this is my reference for myself so I don't get confused, but I'm just going to call blankets, since it was listed first, as A, boots as B, and coats as C. It doesn't matter which order you do it in, but you just need to remember which one you're calling which. So here's money, similar to number 8 if you didn't watch that one, but I know that anytime I buy a blanket, so however many blankets I buy A being the number of blankets, I need to multiply that by $5, because every blanket I am buying, I'm going to have $5 worth of it. Then I'm going to add $20 for every boot. So for my boots, or B, $20. Then my coats, or C, are each $25. So again, what this is saying is if I buy like an A number of blankets, those are $5 each. So we're trying to figure out how many were purchased, but we know that we have a total of this much purchased. So in total, I spent $2,200, or a homeless shelter did. So that's already 1 equation. So I still need to come up with 2 more equations because I need a total of 3. So let's go back and read the information. So this whole sentence here was just about how much everything cost. So here's some key information. There are 7 blankets for every coat. Okay, 7 blankets for every coat. I need to basically figure out a way to compare my blankets, which I'm calling A, so don't get confused, blankets I'm calling A, and I'm comparing coats, which is C. So this is how I kind of try to figure out where the 7 goes, because I can get a little confused. I honestly messed up the first time I wrote this. 7 blankets for every coat. So let's just say that I bought 1 coat. Then I want A to equal 7. So for instance, if I plug in C as 1, if I say I have 1 coat, I want A to equal 7 because I want to have 7 blankets for each coat. In order to do that and make this equation true, if I want A to equal 7, then I need to multiply C by 7. So what I'm thinking of is that for every coat I have, when I multiply it by 7, that's how many blankets I'm going to have total. So A being the blankets and C being the coats. So that's a second equation. This is a really, really hard topic, I feel like, to put into an equation. If this still causes you to be stuck, pause it, try to understand, see if you can understand the little example I gave, or raise your hand and I'll come help you out with it. Okay, so let's look at one last equation. We need a third equation. So the other information was that there are twice as many pairs of boots as coats. So again, now I'm comparing boots and coats. So I know that like somehow I'm comparing boots and coats. So I just need to add in twice, meaning like the number 2. And I'm again trying to compare these two things. And sometimes, like I did, I kind of gave myself a little example so that I can make sure my equation is true. So if I have twice as many pairs of boots as coats, that means I'm going to have more boots than coats. So again, let's just pretend. This is just pretend. So like you can ignore this, but this just helps me. If I have one coat, then I need to have twice as many boots. Twice as many boots. So that's telling me that for every time I have a boot, I need to have, again, twice as many pairs of boots as coats. So this means that I'm going to have to multiply 2 times C again. Because when I plug in C equals 1, I want to have 2 pairs of boots. So if I want B to equal 2, this is only true when I put the 2 here, because 2 times 1 is going to give me 2, B is going to equal 2. So those are my 3 equations. So now I need to figure out how I can figure out the actual number of blankets, boots, and coats that I'm going to have. I want to honestly be honest, you could tell that it took me time to even try to explain this again. It is challenging for me. It kind of feels backwards, so it's okay to get stuck here. So let's kind of jump into how we're going to solve this. This is when you can use the matrix on your calculator. Super helpful. But before you use the matrix, I'm going to write a star here. It's so important to have it in standard form. Standard form. So I'm going to make sure that I have one equation, 5a, I'm just rearranging, but 5a plus 20b plus 25c, that equals 2,200. I also have the equation a equals 7c, and then I have b equals 2c. Well, I want to be able to have a, b, c, right? Remember the dorky song that I sing? Right now I have A's and C's and B's and C's on different sides. So to do this, I'm going to rearrange. For this one, I'm going to subtract 7C from both sides. So I'm going to have A minus 7C equals 0. So that's one way. Okay, same way here. I have B equals 2C. So I'm going to just subtract 2C from both sides. So I'll have B minus 2C, and that equals 0. So now when I type this into my calculator, I need to be extra careful that I keep the columns A, B, and C, and put the, basically the total in the last column. So for my first equation, I would have a 5, 20, and 25, and that's going to be 2,200. Remember, you're only taking the coefficients. On the second equation, I have 1a, 0 b's, and minus 7 c's, and that's equal to 0. Then my last equation is going to be 0 a's, 1 b, and minus 2 c's, and that equals 0. I also want to say that you could have flipped these. You might have negative a plus 7c, and that's okay as well. So this is when we go to the calculator. So here's my calculator, and I type in RREF, open the parentheses, and then I'm going to go click in this little button right here, which gives me my matrix. I have 3 rows and 4 columns. Push OK, and go ahead and type in the matrix we just created. I've actually already copied and pasted this, so don't do this step, but there's my matrix already put in. So look, I even put the -1 and a +2 here. You could also write this as +1, -2. Whichever way that you wrote it is fine. So notice that I just typed in my matrix, into the calculator, I push enter, and my answers are on the side. My top one is my A value, so A was my number of blankets, so I'm looking for a number of blankets that is 154. I notice that the only answer choice is